Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am John. My co-host is Andy, and we are just two trustworthy brown-haired men here to discuss episode 3 of Survivor HHH, whatever it is. Heroes, Hustlers. I don't remember the order. Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. Yes. I'm actually glad that I'm back from my 1-week hiatus to discuss this one because this episode, Andy, was full of surprise. Singular.
Yes.
One surprise.
Exactly one surprise. It felt so predictable through the entire thing, and then I was like, okay then.
So how surprised were you by that one surprise?
I mean, pretty. I mean, obviously, like, they had set up that, Patrick was a definite possibility for 2 episodes in a row, but I just didn't think of it. It could not pierce my veil of cynicism that I've been bringing with me to this season. And everything that they showed about how it could be Patrick and not Lauren is just like, yeah, whatever show. Like, I was convinced. It felt like it was Lauren, not just that, like, that's what Survivor tends to do. And I was ready to be indignant about it. I in commercial breaks and through tribal council, I might not even been paying enough attention as I was mentally composing my rants. And then, how about that?
Yeah, did not see that coming, especially when, you get Lauren saying like 3 different times about how she played baseball and laying it on thick with the redhead slander. I don't really know where that came from.
Yeah, the baseball thing especially, I'm like, okay, so this will be the one fact about her. Like, that's all we'll get for her entire, like, time on the show.
Right, it'll be the thing that Reddit worships about her for years to come. But she's spouting off all these things about redheads that you're like, wow, that's kind of awkward that she says those things at the very least. And then it gets to the end and you're like, wait, so that wasn't her boot episode? I'm very confused now.
Yeah, and like at Tribal, she's going full attack dog, and that's usually, you see that as like the last gasp chance of the doomed. Mm-hmm. They just kind of put it all out there, but it never works. And I would say it still didn't work. Like, I think, the vote was clearly on Patrick as they were going to Tribal Council. So yeah, I was just like, okay, this is a symbol of how, the young white guy will get every chance in the world, and it doesn't matter, all his failures. But no, all his failures mattered. He didn't matter. It's like, and I gotta, the question I asked is like, how gratifying was it that Patrick somehow turned all the inherent advantages that he had, granted upon him by both, the history of Survivor and our society, and he turned it into like the third boot.
Oh, I'm shocked because I thought Patrick might go home last week. I think I predicted him going home from that tribe last week. But I figured this week he was safe because if you were going to get rid of him, you've decided like, okay, whatever, we don't need this strong guy. We're going to be fine without him. But my thought was if you were fine with getting rid of strength, just go ahead and do it early. Like why, no half measures, do it now. And they didn't. So I was like, okay, well, I guess they've decided they're going to cast their lot with Patrick. They're going to stick around with this guy. And suddenly, he's gone. But I feel like this might be an encouraging sign because one of the best seasons ever had a guy named Garrett go home really, really early. And that guy was like the strong male muscle on his tribe. So, if that's the path we're going down, I am here for it.
Yeah, and nothing bad happened to that tribe after that decision. So
yeah,
that was good.
Smooth sailing the rest of the way.
I'd say no, you don't do the strength right away because maybe you don't lose a challenge after that. But when you lose back to back and the reason you lose is because of that quote unquote strength, then absolutely go for it. Yeah, is what I would think. It never seems to happen that way though. We've seen it time and time again on this show where, they just talk about strength. The losing tribe, the tribe that keeps losing is like, well, we can't get rid of our strength. And it's like, how's that strength working out for you, bunkies? And apparently they kind of like, yeah, it's not really working out for us. And my mind was blown.
Yeah, there's a Survivor logic that is counter to real world logic. And they didn't follow the Survivor logic. They went with the real world of like, hey, you know what? This isn't working anyway. Let's just cut our losses now and move on.
Yeah, and I think this dovetails, while I can't do my rant about how, the entire arc for Lauren just is a symbol of, the patriarchy and male privilege. I think it's a good opportunity to talk about, kind of how again, I would talk about it again as we've talked about it many times, but how, men and women are targeted differently in Survivor. And, there's been a comment thread, for the past couple weeks, I believe kind of started by commenter The Sky is Falling. And I'm gonna say he did a little research, as in, tallying up some numbers on the wiki. It turns out finalists, there's been basically one more male finalist than female finalists. Winners, it's now tilted towards men, but it's still only like a 9% difference. Obviously, even with 35 seasons, it's still like a small statistical base. But I think, the conclusion that you could draw from that is, all in all, in the end, it balances out. But it doesn't feel that way, right? And I think how it ends up balancing out frequently is women are targeted early, men are targeted in the middle. So I can see why somebody might think, maybe, Survivor isn't, sexist necessarily, or at the very least, and this one I actually might support, any more sexist than America or the world. I don't know why I needed to single out America for that one. But here's a key difference. Women are targeted because, and I think it's more, and again, it's not necessarily about the outcomes, because maybe by the end, and we're talking, 16 to 20 people, eventually something will balance out when you're talking about like a 50-50 split, but women seem to be more frequently targeted because of weakness, and men are targeted because of strength. And that's a thing to watch on TV.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder, I feel like this should be something that's going to happen, and I keep waiting for it to happen. As the show starts to cast more and more people that are actual fans of the show, it feels like that pattern should shift, right? They all know swaps will come early anyway, the actual fans of the show. So shouldn't the weak people, the Zeeks, the Adams, the Mari, or not Mari wasn't a fan.
The Chrissy and Katrinas, for example.
Shouldn't they recognize these things, band together and say, you know what? I know the pattern of how this show goes. Let's flip that script and just go ahead and take out the strong males first, because we just want loyalty. That's the only thing we're going to base our game around, is trustworthy people. Clearly, trustworthiness somehow related to hair color, but trustworthy people that we can stick around and work with.
Yeah, and I think if challenges were the only thing, that you might see that. And I think why you don't see this is people be hungry, and people don't like sleeping in the rain. So that, I think, is often where the bias towards quote unquote strength comes in, is especially in the early days. It's just like, man, I need somebody around to lift this heavy stuff and to go get me some food. And I think that's just not going to go away no matter how big a super fan you are. In fact, if you are a super fan the way they tend to cast a lot of super fans, you probably desperately need somebody to do that stuff for you, because you are not somebody who leaves your house frequently. Cause nobody ever calls Joe Anglim super fan, even though apparently he was a big fan of Survivor, cause he was a fan in a much different way than us. So yeah, if you're talking the collection of super fans like Orion or whatever, Ryan needs Devin or Patrick to do stuff for him, cause he ain't doing it.
I'm just thinking there's going to be a season coming down the line where that will be the impetus for the first alliance, is someone saying, look, we all know the deal here. We know what we are. We're the weak. We should be the first targets, but let's not be. Our only strength is strength in numbers. So let's turn this thing around. And it's going to happen. I thought maybe this might be this could be a sign that it's happening here, but it's probably too little too late now, because it's swap time next week.
Yeah, and also I don't think that factored much into the Patrick decision at all. I will say you could remove the super fan part of the equation. It has happened a couple of times that I can think of off the top of my head, and those seasons were Vanuatu and One World, where the weak banded together to help their season suck. So I don't know if it's really something we should be cheering for.
It's a good point.
Hey, how about the beta males all get together and run things? Oh, yeah, that's not good.
I thought you said Marquesas.
Well, yeah, those losers, Boston Rob and everybody banded together. You're not going to catch me saying that, right?
I meant the other losers, meaning like Nalia and Pascal and Kathy, but sure.
Oh, but that's later on in the season. We're talking early on where,
Okay.
yeah, the doughy men of Vanuatu and One World got together and, determined that winning wasn't important. And it didn't really work out for them. So, yeah, again, winning is probably important. The thing about it that people fail to recognize frequently is it's not always necessary for you to have pecs to win. So especially in Modern Survivor, and this could be where the superfans get together. It's like, yeah, how many puzzles is Patrick going to help us win?
Right. I mean, when you think about the fact that Rupert was a huge challenge asset, Rupert is not exactly the most buff gym-going guy, so...
Yeah, and also, forget challenges. Patrick lost them this week, and there was no puzzle, or hardly a puzzle element to speak of. It's because he had to go out there and show what a big man he was. So, yeah. So specifically Patrick, whether, forget what this says about, the metagame and all of that. Was it the right decision to get rid of Patrick for these people?
Yeah, I think so. The only thing that I can think is that Allie, she might have had reason to keep him around, but I think it's one of those things that she's not going to push to keep him. It's not worth pushing too hard now and using up your capital. If it's someone that you're probably going to have to turn on in a couple weeks anyway, if she could see that writing on the wall, fine, just give in now and cast your lot with some other people.
Yeah, for me, I think for Allie, this made the most sense because, and you can see this even before they went to tribal council or even before, they went to the challenge and lost. The mental strain it would take to try and keep Patrick afloat in this game is just be an anchor around her. And you saw that when she's trying to coach him up to be a little less annoying. And that's just not going to happen. I read one exit interview with Patrick, which brings my grand total of exit interviews for the season to 1. Basically, all his friends and family are like, yeah, we knew this was going to happen when you went out there. We thought it might be worse. Like, he is who he is. And I think just like working with a guy like that, proceeding forward, as they were thinking about it, trying to like form other alliances once, swaps, I don't know, they called it merge, but it's swaps, are coming. It's just not worth the trouble. So for all of that, I fully support this. I found out when listening to RHAP last week that like, dude, like woke them up in the middle of the night as practical jokes. Like, you could get cut for that. Like, that alone could be like, we send Jeff to the beach right now because I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, just for like stuff like that, it's just not worth the trouble. I will say for one of the people that made the decision, and frankly, I think the person that made the decision, Devin, I'm not sure it's 100% a good idea. Like, I think Allie was totally on board. I think Ryan was not on board. And I judge that based on him saying that he doesn't want to vote out Patrick and wanted to vote out Lauren. I think this was Devin's decision, and the show quickly cut that either because it would have given the ball game away or because Devin is not a character they're going to invest in. But for Devin, the question would be, who is more likely to vote against you in a merge or swap situation, Lauren or Patrick? And I kind of feel like the answer might be Lauren.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know that you can start making those projections just yet. You don't know what tribe you're going to end up in. And once you get swapped, yes, maybe Lauren would go against you, but maybe you've ended up on a tribe where you just fit right in and you didn't have to, compete with Patrick for the tribe's attention. Again, wouldn't put too much stock into that when I was making my decision, if I were Devin.
No. Ultimately, I think he made the decision he made, and I think I support it, is that Devin especially doesn't seem to be the kind of person who wants the extra stress of this sort of thing. I think he kind of wants just like a chill experience. So yeah, I think it's the right decision. Just that's the one caveat, that if he's in a situation where like I need everybody because it's like a 3-3 thing and a swap, I could see Lauren being like, you know what, nah, I'm good. I'm just going to go with these people. They're not going to vote for me. Because Lauren is the type who basically needs to survive, 1-2 more votes, and then she's probably, free for the next 10. Whereas, Patrick, he probably wouldn't turn against Devin for no other reason than he's a simple person.
I think that's a pretty accurate descriptor of him, yes.
But as you say, you know, on the balance, that's probably not enough to shift the not Patrick if you just feel like, I just don't want this dude around. That's a good enough reason, and I support it. And again, I want to reiterate that I was just surprised and frankly a little pleased that for once, the awful dude who isn't even that useful didn't get yet another free pass just because of his assumed helpfulness. I will say the one thing dampening my enthusiasm for that finish is, I'm not ruling out the possibility that Lauren also sucks.
Oh, it's entirely possible. Although, again, as a parent of multiple kids, if you woke me up in the middle of the night, you are absolutely my first target. Like, I did not know that bit of information. That might be enough for me. Like, you know what? I don't care what else you're doing around camp. Let me sleep, MFer.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, Patrick, absolutely, I'm not saying, you know, Lauren ahead of Patrick, but celebrating Lauren's victory and that, like, you know, she finally got to call out this guy and, she wasn't punished for it and all that, like, that I would normally be like, yes! It's like, she might also just be sucky, you know? And again,
sure.
Maybe it's just Patrick, right? And if it's just Patrick and he was just pushing her buttons the wrong way, and after this we see a Lauren that isn't so sullen and grumpy, then I'm not gonna blame the victim, right? She's just, you know, not here for his BS. But, you know, if she's the kind of person that's not here for anybody's BS, then don't go on reality television because that's what you're signing up for probably more than anything else. Now, again, Patrick might be an extreme case. And again, yeah, get rid of him, especially when it's him or you. But like the redheaded thing is just weird. All right.
So weird.
And it's like, I'm assuming it comes from a place where like there was like maybe one, maybe two other redheads. Maybe there was like a family, you know, the McBrides down the street or something that she didn't like. And it's become this thing.
The McPoyles.
Yeah. Patrick is like triggering her or something because it's like, what's next? She gets on a swap next week and is like, man, I hate that Cole. You never trust a lefty. Like what's redheaded hate at this point?
I don't know. No, maybe she's got a thing against abs. She'll be like, oh, can never trust a six pack.
Yeah.
Who knows? And at first I was like, huh, you know, just she made an offhand comment, but really 2 weeks in a row and then like multiple this week. Like, how do you even have that many opinions about redheads?
Yeah, like where do you live that this is like, you know, like a thing that you've grown up with? Again, maybe if you go to like, I don't know, like a Boston Catholic school or something, like the whole like, you know, I can tell when a redhead lies. It's a little weird you're saying redhead, but you know, from there maybe you can infer their paleness makes their blushing more obvious or something. But, but yeah, it's just like, I've never trusted a redhead and I never will. It's like, what kind of weird old-timey hate is this?
I mean, I was in Ireland for like a week. I barely saw any redheads. I don't know where she's finding enough of them to form opinions or stereotypes about them.
Yeah, like, I don't think Survivor has had enough to like cast like a redhead tribe in like some future All-Stars configuration. Like it's just not that common a thing to develop what seemed to be, due to her repetition and the different places she'd bring it up, to be like this legit hatred or at least personal mantra. So that was weird. So yeah, if she's like suddenly going after Southpaws next week or something, it's just like, wait, what did the nuns do to you? I don't know.
All right, so let's talk about a different tribe here because we actually got a decent amount. I like that we didn't have the reward challenge thing because we got like a nice little sampling of what's going on at every tribe. It didn't feel rushed.
Yeah, it felt like it was approximately even between the three. I mean, obviously, like, leaned on the Hustlers because they had the extra piece of business, but we definitely had a storyline throughout each tribe this week, so that's nice.
Yeah, it definitely felt like from the very first scenes, confessionals, whatever, once we started to get a lot of Lauren, I'm like, okay, so that tribe is definitely going to tribal council because I don't see why you lead with them otherwise, and lead with Lauren in particular otherwise, because she's not the most compelling of narrators. But yeah, so we did get to spend some time we went to Healer's tribe. We got to see, Cole and his buddy Jessica and their little budding romance. And also Cole letting the loose lips potentially sink the ship and, telling Jessica, and then later others, that Joe has the idol.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, this was obviously, pointed out by Jessica, and I think probably shared opinion by other people that this was a bad move. And I don't know if it was, or at least, caveat. So her problem was that he would tell people before they went to the challenge. I actually don't know if that's a bad idea. Because right after a challenge, if you lose, scrambling like that makes it a much less effective way to blind somebody with an idol. If suddenly he thinks that he should be, the vote is said, it's Mike, we all know it's Mike, and all of a sudden they're, skimming around and having to talk really fast and quiet with each other, if you even have that opportunity to begin with. So I actually didn't mind him setting the groundwork early, before we know the outcome of things, for the movement against Joe. However, a couple things that maybe he didn't do quite as well. One, maybe you don't need to surrender the information about the idol. I kind of feel like you probably could have gotten Desi and Rourke on that side just from how unbelievably dickish it was that he's throwing away our food. Like, that's insane. Like, Russell Hantz is probably watching like, what the hell, dude?
Show some couth.
Who does that? There is like a 100% chance Joe frequently sends food back at a restaurant. And it's not because it's necessarily not worth paying for. Oh. It's because he needs to show his dominance over the poor waitstaff.
Do you think that Joe is one of those people who puts the 5 singles on the table and he's like, listen, I'm going to peel one away every time you screw up? You think he's that guy?
I would say at the very least, he's tried it. Cause that was just unbelievable. Like, how would you just be like, nope, this food is no good for anybody? I would eat that even if it was never cooked in the first place.
And the best part is people are like, well, no, I'll eat it. And he's like, yeah, tosses it anyway.
Yeah, that is one of the most, and again, because so many other things happen, mind-blowingly obnoxious things I've ever seen on this show. So yeah, that's probably enough. You probably don't necessarily need to share that information about the idol right away.
Yes.
So that's probably, not the best move. And I would say, and this, tails into, Jessica's reaction, maybe clear that information with your alliance partner first. I am going to approach them and I'm going to tell them and have that discussion.
I'm pretty much on board with you here. This is where he went wrong. I have no problem with him going out to recruit people to target Joe. You don't need to give up that information so soon because, feel them out. If they're willing to target Joe, not knowing he has the idol, that's enough. That's all you need. If they're a little hesitant, maybe then you regroup and say, okay, maybe I reveal the idol information. You only have to give up as much information as you need to give up. He just blurted it all out. And as you said, the real risk there is that it seemed like he'd solidified a relationship with Jessica where they are the number one allies for each other by giving her that information. And then right in front of her, he gives that information willingly to others. So that makes her think, well, wait a minute. I thought I was your number one. And now the method that you use to make me your number one is what you're doing to everybody else on our tribe.
Yeah. Are they kissing you on the cheek as well? So,
exactly.
Yeah, I got her offense at it. I think her explanation, and I think, she's probably trying to speak of it in terms of the game to maybe even just cover her own offense. She doesn't like, oh, it's not that, I'm jealous or anything. And frankly, I'm not even going to say she was. It's that. It's like, you and me, that's us. And now I guess I'm just not special. And also that, I think that's the wrong move. Because I don't even mind totally that in that scenario, he quickly deemed that, oh yeah, these guys are on board with getting out Joe. There's probably no real backlash to giving them this extra information that'll only help solidify us and help prevent Joe doing some kind of end around. Because frankly, if they were to go to tribal council, at this point, Joe could even just know about it. I mean, we're going to split votes. What are you going to do?
Yeah, if they've got everybody on board, they're safe.
Yeah, so we agree. Awesome. And I'll just say, what did you think of Jessica's reaction?
Justified? I mean, I think she was totally justified because, again, if she felt like just a little while earlier they'd become each other's closest allies and partners, suddenly he's removed the partnership and started making executive decisions for them as an alliance.
Yeah, so I actually was kind of excited that this was coming together, and not just because I really don't like Joe, but because it's probably a little more interesting than just the battle between Lauren and Patrick. So I was a little bummed when basically they didn't lose this week, and now it might be completely rendered moot because of the swap coming up next week. What about you?
Oh, see, this is where I'll disagree with you, because I think if anything, this helps make the situation more chaotic once they swap next week, because now the knowledge of Joe's idol can just go off into the world, and it'll go out through various players in the game, depending on how the shuffle goes, to the point that, 90% of the players could know that Joe has an idol by next week. And I like the chaos of that.
That would be nice. I'm looking forward to that. In which case, then, anybody who spoke ill of Cole's decision needs to just come on our boards and apologize to me. 'Cause that's how it works, right? When, the show later reveals slight pieces. My heart isn't even in attacking people.
No, I can tell. It's just, there's something missing.
I was trying to go through the motions there, and you know what? Don't force it. When it happens, it happens. So speaking of not forcing things, we got a couple Showmance, edits this week.
Ooh.
That's a nice transition, huh?
Yeah. In the week of Harvey Weinstein, you sure that's what you're going to go with?
I meant forcing the issue of yes, but yeah. No jokes after that.
Nope.
So the Showmances, obviously we get, the continued development of what the JP and Ashley, which I almost wonder is miscast as a showmance altogether. And then even more so with the Cole and Jessica one, which, a little side note, I actually kind of thought was a little adorable.
Oh wow, I can't believe we're both on board with that. I was going to say oh come on, that was kind of cute. It was ridiculous. Kind of cute.
Yeah, they just seem like they're actually really into it, and not just, in that little scene, and, she's giving them the kiss on the cheek, or in their fishing, which, also on that, I like the inversion of roles. I like that it's, her out there swimming, and him just kind of waiting around and collecting the fish. That's nice.
Look at this progressive modern relationship they've got.
Yeah, I got the impression that he's also done the swimming based on things she said, maybe I shouldn't have been down there this long, as though maybe they're trading off, but from what we see, 2 weeks in a row, she's out there doing it. Maybe this is the more modern thing that will push the idea that we don't need to keep the Patricks of the world around. Ladies could be out there doing it for themselves. But yeah, and then when they were giving their confessionals, there was a clear twinkle in each of their eyes and bashful smiles. I thought it was cute. So
I feel like we've reached an odd point in the show where our robot nature has started to fade away. It's very strange. This is bold new territory for us.
I know. Well, we will need to find something else to attack. But so for this, does this say more about just kind of the power of human attraction? That it doesn't matter that you're on this cutthroat strategy show and everybody's watching. It's just when you're really into somebody who, in both of these cases are fairly attractive. Or does it show that these people are not very good at Survivor?
I think at least with Cole and Jessica, we haven't gotten any third-party confirmation that they seem to be a little too tight. So I think they might be playing it all right. The Ashley and JP thing doesn't, like you said, doesn't even really seem to be any kind of necessarily romantic. I think there might be some attraction there, but there's not a lot going on. And they are getting tagged with, these two are a couple, they're together too much. I think probably Cole and Jessica are playing it right. Ashley and JP have not managed to navigate that minefield very well.
Yeah, and, for their benefit of Ashley and JP, maybe they could have if Alan really wasn't looking for it and wanting to rock the boat as much as he was able to. But, yeah, and I just think this, and you think of other, dopey, showmances, and obviously the easy reaction, one I've had myself, is why would you do that? That's just dumb. But just, I don't know, maybe it was something about seeing Cole and Jessica and how, kind of gormless they were about it. It's just sometimes you just really get the hots for somebody and it just kind of is hard to do anything but. And I've been there. So, good on you, quirky kids and almost 30 virgins. All right. So I think that's enough on that. So the third tribe we got, and we got a little bit of storyline this week, was the Heroes tribe. I put a note that we should talk about them because they're a tribe and they were on the show, but I don't really have much else to say. What did you think of what we got out of them this week?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing as last week. There's a group of 2 that's running that tribe because the other 3 are incapable of working together. Luckily, they never had to vote again. So as far as everyone knows, they're all nicely aligned with whoever they're saying they're aligned with because they had that unanimous first vote against the swimmer lady Katrina. I'm sure, you remember that one.
That's right.
That harmonious, unanimous first vote. So now they're all aligned and all the relationships seem to be perfectly reasonable at this point because there's been no votes cast against each other to feel threatened in any way.
Absolutely. But I think actually you missed the key part of the argument is that they are perfectly aligned while also not being aligned at all, thus providing all of the opportunity for people who previously had done nothing. It's somehow both completely harmonious yet discordant enough for chaos to be a ladder. And any action that could have or could not have been taken would have completely upset that balance. I will say that one interesting thing from the Heroes tribe this week is that it really got the impression that had they lost, old what's-his-face, JP, and I mean, I know his name, but literally what's-his-face, would have gone home.
Yeah, I mean, I still think when push came to shove, it might have been Ashley, just because, again, stereotypes of how Survivor usually goes, but this is an episode where we're bucking that stereotype, so who knows? It could have also bucked had it gone to this tribe for tribal council.
Or maybe even a little more interestingly, it seemed like Ben wanted JP to be the one to go home and was even discussing it with Ashley. But as you say, who knows? Once it gets, the road hits the rubber hits the road. Maybe Chrissy would have been like, no, we got to get rid of the other woman, and then it would have been interesting to see if she still would have been everybody's hero. Because of course she is an elite level player because she understands that the doing is in the not doing. Mm-hmm. But maybe that turns around when really all she is like, I don't want other women taking my under the radar spot.
It's the notes you don't hear, Andy.
It is. I just don't understand the jazz that is appreciating modern Survivor. All right. So yeah, that was a dead end conversation. So let's go back to the cute showmancy type stuff. And I think one of the reasons, as I was getting, talking about it, what I was alluding to is just that, young, attractive people get the hots for each other, and it doesn't matter the scenario where it happens, especially, hopefully, but not always, when you're single. Which I think leads into a discussion that started to happen even, within week one or leading up to week one. Is this the most attractive cast in Survivor history? Let's talk out the hot tribes of Survivor.
Oh, I'm so glad that we kept this discussion for me, the biggest bro of the Purple Rock community, because I am, of course, very qualified to discuss this. I used to have a running game with my wife when we'd watch, and we'd pick out the hottest male and female of every season. So I like to think I have a decent grasp of which seasons had the hottest casts. This one's not bad. I think it's a little weak on the women's side. You got a top 2 or 3 that are good, and then it falls off a bit. Mm-hmm. If we're comparing against historical casts, the 2 that I normally put forward would be like Tocantins and One World. And I think it's important when we're having this discussion to consider like the whole cast is not going to be attractive.
Right.
That would be ridiculous. That doesn't happen in society, and they wouldn't do it. If they made the whole cast attractive, it's not Survivor. There's different shows for that. So it wouldn't fit. So when you think of hottest tribes or seasons or whatever, you just have to go for like the top 3 or 4 on each side. And I think for Tocantins and One World, those are covered very, very well.
Well, I think those are the contenders. And I think for those, you can go past 3 or 4. Like, I'm okay, going with some quantity. What I'm not okay with, and this has popped up in a couple of the discussions, and I think what you're alluding to, is the bad faith arguments of, oh yeah, but what about this ugly troll? And it's like, people, you don't throw out the hot apples because of one bad one. So, to say, oh, but One World had Tarzan and Troy something. Again, we're not talking about them. We're talking about the hot people. And yeah, if we're talking One World, you have, on the guy side, you got Matt Quinlan, you've got Michael Jefferson was generically attractive, although also a little creepy with his eyebrows and height.
MF and Byers.
Jay Byers, yeah. And then so that's pretty good. On the ladies' side, you have Courtney Moon.
Courtney Moon! I was going to be so pissed if you didn't mention Courtney Moon.
Christina Shaw, Chelsea, Sabrina, Kim. I mean, Kat is attractive, but, mildly dumb, we'll say. Monica Culpepper for her demo is an attractive woman.
Sure.
And Alicia can be attractive from some angles. So, yeah.
That was very diplomatically phrased. Well done, my friend.
So, yeah, that's a pretty good collection of attractive people. And I actually think One World might be the answer, in part because it kind of get the impression that they leaned really heavily into attractiveness when putting together the cast, much to the season's detriment.
Yes. And I think part of that was the thinking that if they're going to share a beach, if they put 20 people where the majority were attractive, they might get some of this showman's type stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's what they were trying to manufacture with the One World concept. Now when you get to Tocantins, we've got, and like, I think maybe what might make this not top of mind for people is some like super hot people were eliminated early.
Yes. And I should say, cause I as a Tocantins stan, I have to throw this out there. You're dealing with 16 people here. So, you know, you got to grade them on a curve because they have less slots for potential attractive people.
Right, but then maybe the hotness efficiency goes up.
Exactly.
Right?
You know, they shoot their shot and they hit their shot.
Yeah, so like just early on, you've got First Boot, Caroline Eastwood. You've got Candace Smith, Sydney Wheeler, who, if you don't remember, like Google photos of them, and they are insanely beautiful human beings.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, and then you know, even later on in the game, you get Sierra Reed, a professional model. You got Taj, you know, a pop star. Aaron Lobdell is super hot. And then on the guy's side, you have Brendan, Tyson, you know, Peak JT.
Yes.
People in our community will say fishy, and we'll just let them say that and not move on.
Oh, you know what? This might just be my Tocantins bias too, but Tocantins, Stephen, is not peak attractiveness, Stephen. You know, he blossomed later on. He's definitely grown into a more attractive self. But, you know, the elements were maybe there. So I'll give people some credit. If they want Steven on this list, I'm fine with that. I put him on mine for this group.
Yeah. And then like even Spencer Doom, whatever his last name is, like that for his demo, he's probably like a cute young boy.
Also, boy is the operative word because he's pretty young.
He was like, like just 18 or something. And then like, you know, Joe Dowdle looks like he could play like a renegade cop on like a low rent TV show. So again, that's a pretty high percentage, as you were saying. Yeah. I must say, like, for this season, it's just tough to say. It's probably too soon to call because we have to first live with them a bit. It's better why we're having this discussion now that, like, Desi and Jessica were on our television.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I think this episode especially was like, oh, Jessica actually is pretty attractive. And again, you know, maybe it was because she, you know, was flush with the sense of new love. I think, you know, some of the, patented Ken Cole, fishing scenes worked really well for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, Desi was like, you want to not just compare, photogenicness. You want to see what they look like on the show. And yeah, she's come through.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to see how they develop with, island hotness. Another thing we had in the preseason, obviously Allie is stunning in her photo, but we weren't sure if that look would hold up on the island. Pleased to report very well.
Yes.
Very well.
Can confirm it's holding up quite well.
And then, of course, there was the discussion we had last week with Matt about all the attractive guys. So, yeah, again, this show could be a contender in that list. Another season I think is, a contender and worth consideration is Micronesia. So obviously, top heavy, maybe pun intended,
crazy.
But not completely pun intended. You have like Parvati and Amanda, Natalie Bolton, Ozzy and James, Eliza, you know, is baseline attractive, I think. Yeah. Amy is an attractive person. Apparently, you know, Jason Siska, the ladies like him. Barry was an early boot that's, you know, was probably cast to be pretty. Penner used to be professionally attractive. I mean, he's gone to seed a bit, but he's still got a little bit of something. So I think that cast has something. Do you got any others?
Yeah, my other dark horse, and again, I realize it's not in the top tier of contenders, but Cook Islands had some talent in there too. It's mostly on the guy side. But, you know, you got Yule, you got Ozzy, there's Parvati out there, there's Candace. You know, there's people out there worth considering.
Sandra, very underrated.
Yes. Nate was an attractive guy. Douche bro, Adam, if that's your thing.
Yeah, I considered Cook Islands my, dark horse. Again, not like on this tier of the other ones we mentioned, but like, one worth, I think, rediscovering, maybe is the right word. Or, like, more like if you were talking about, like, basketball terms, you talk about them as a contender for the championship, but they probably have enough flaws that they're not really going to win. Is Vanuatu.
Mm-hmm.
And I think why people might not think of them is because, as earlier discussed, the Dewey Beta males got together and kicked out a lot of the young men at the beginning of the season. But if you look on, like, the ladies' side, Dolly was pretty cute.
Yep.
Again, Leanne and Eliza, I think, were baseline attractive people with, symmetry and, a good figure. Amy, as previously mentioned. And then this is why it needs to be discussed, is, you have two megastars.
Yep.
John Kenny is is a contender for one of the most attractive men that have ever been on the show. And Julie Berry might be the hottest woman that's ever been on the show.
Yep.
So for them, so my comp, like, to bring it back to the basketball is like, they're the Russ KD Thunder. Yeah. Always a contender because you have two megastars.
Right. Exactly. They're gonna shoot enough threes that if they're on a hot streak that night, they could win.
Yeah. But if you look further down the bench, it starts to get ugly.
Yes.
So, those are, what we have to add to the discussion. I think I'm going with One World as my answer. Just, I think just consistency, there's highlights, and again, I don't know if that means it's a good idea. And I think that, the thought I had, and when people, obviously we've been complaining about the terrible named, season and how poorly a lot of these people meet the description that they've been given to them, is, I think one of the reasons why Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty, or, other seasons that are just basically synonyms for that might work out, is I think that's how Survivor casts.
Yeah.
Is basically a third buff, a third hot, and a third kind of strategic and, brainy.
Yep.
So that's probably why it works out. Now, it obviously doesn't always break down exactly a third, and that's why even in the BBB seasons, you get some odd choices. But, because you go like a wild card, right? If you can cast Ty, you're going to throw him in there, even if he isn't like in those groupings.
Right.
But I think in general, that's probably the mix that works best for casting.
Yeah. That's probably ballpark why they do it, at least.
Or why it occurred to them that one season when they're looking out. It's like, hey, we got some hot people. All that. And the casting's like, yeah, that's not an accident. We generally try to get you 6 to 8 hot people.
Right. Exactly. Because we know that we are on TV.
Yes.
It's a visual medium.
So yeah, if we've forgot any seasons, let us know, or at the very least, let us know One World, Tocantins, Micronesia, etc., or this season, and show your work, preferably with GIFs. All right, it's time for this segment we've been doing. I might as well say all season.
Yeah,
two previous times in this, and we'll see how long we're going to do it. Whether we do it after these names are never mentioned on the show again. What was your heroic moment of the week?
I'm going to give my heroic moment to Jessica for laying it all on the line and going in for that cheek kiss.
Yeah, and look, her kisses are normally secret, but she put it out there in front of millions.
That's right.
Good on you, Jessica. Shoot your shot.
Brave. Heroic even.
My heroic moment of the week, I suppose, was buried under a deep layer of irony, but it doesn't get more like hero moment than Patrick just doing it all. I don't care what people are saying. I don't care how much I fail. I'm just going to keep throwing things because I can, and I'm a man and I'm awesome. Way to go, hero.
It reminded me of the Cambodia hero challenge type hero, where it's like, Terry Dietz his hand is up before Jeff can get the word hero out of his mouth. Like, boom, in the air. Yes, me, hero. I'm in. Let's do this.
But then Joe's just sitting there like, what? I'm right behind you, dude.
Right. Like, I'm good at these things, right?
All right, what's next?
The healing moment of the week. Who do you have as your healing moment of the week?
So this week I decided to describe, healing as maybe, healing of a sexual nature, a little sexual healing. And, for me, I decided to go with, the rush of endorphins that was clearly written across Ashley's face as she sees JP emerge from the ocean with fish. It almost getting like the Ursula Andrews shot of like emerging from the water. And frankly, like, I like that. I liked how she, described it in her confessional. Because, you know what? Let the ladies have a little thirst and let the men, be objectified to some degree. Ladies can feel this way too, and I bet it felt good.
Yeah, and I'm also giving it to Ashley this week. Gotta phrase that better. Similarly, about the JP thing, but it's more for healing the rift in her tribe over this whole power couple thing, by finally putting that debate to rest and just saying, you know what? Let's just keep JP around because I like him, and let's unite around a common interest. Mine. Good for her.
All right. Hustle moment of the week. What do you got?
Let's see. There's no dispute. This actually breaks right into the right tribe, too. Ryan going all out for his self-deprecating, actually, I've never dated anyone, because it was tense for a minute there. I didn't know if he was going to manage to spit that one out before Probst could move on, but no, he got it in under the wire, and that's why he's a hustler.
I loved Probst's reaction to that, because it's just like, dude, I'm not even talking about that. Okay.
He's like, I just had this line ready to go, and I'm trying to shoehorn it in wherever I can, and I saw an opening, I had to take it.
Yeah, we almost made it through an episode without, like, a forced analogy of what a loser he was. So good job. Way to hustle.
Yep.
For me, I decided to go with that tribe, but make it a group award for everybody who scavenged Simone's stuff as soon as they got back from tribal council. Or I guess the morning after. And I gotta say, that was weird. Not the scavenging of her stuff, but how in the heck does Simone not pack her stuff?
Yeah, was she that oblivious to the potential that she might be going home then?
Like, she seemed to know that she was in danger. That's why she did that hustling. Did she think, oh no, nailed it, got it? Like, I can understand somebody not bringing their stuff. I cannot imagine Simone not bringing her stuff. Like, you haven't even been that long. That stuff's still good.
Right.
Like, it's not like, I don't want to smell this stuff ever again, you know, throw it in the fire. Like, you know, it's day 6. Keep those boots. It blew my mind that she didn't pack.
Yeah, left a quality pantsuit behind.
All right, so next week it looks like we got some kind of swap, some kind of merge. Most likely it's 3 down to 2, because we don't know the configurations of the tribes or what the tribes will be. I mean, maybe it's a 15-person merge. Note, it's not a 15-person merge. Predicting just one person go to home next week based on nothing but I suppose edit, because we can't base it on who likes who or whatever.
I'm gonna just throw this out there. I think it's Jessica that ends up going home.
Aww.
I know, right? Young love, dying too soon. I think someone's probably going to end up telling Joe that, you know, they learned about the idol from her or something like. I feel like it's going to somehow come back against her that she was part of this group that outed Joe again. And it's not even her fault. It just feels like one of these things where she's going to get blamed for outing Joe's idol, and someone's going to use that to go against her, and Jessica ends up going home.
Yeah, I hope not. I actually kind of liked her. That's one thing. I just think, and this is one thing I didn't put on the breakdown because I foolishly thought this episode might go long. This is just like as the season's developing, who are we responding to? And I actually kind of felt like I responded a bit to Jessica. I think both in that she was kind of cute. I liked that she fished, and I liked that, you know, she seemed to at least couch her thoughts in terms of strategy in a way that, you know, for instance, Cole hasn't. So, I liked her this week. So that would be a little disappointing.
Yeah.
How about you? Is there anybody?
Yeah. So it's people I'm liking so far. Allie. For sure.
Yeah, still in on Allie for sure. Every week she's been improving in my estimation.
Exactly. I mean, I think she's very smoothly navigating the social game. She's like weighing how much it's worthwhile to stick with certain alliances and if it's okay to drag people. You know, is it too soon to grab your goats? Yes. And she stuck to that. Very impressed with Allie. Otherwise, I mean, she's probably the star for me so far. Jessica, I guess, better than I expected, but I'm still not quite there yet.
And help, like, I had zero opinion of her until, like, her segment this week. Like, frankly, to the point where I did not quite know her name.
Yeah, and then, I mean, the Heroes tribe, I mean, I guess Chrissy and Ben are fine. I'm not super impressed with them yet, but the show seems to want me to be.
Yeah, here's where I'll antagonize everybody. I don't get the Ben excitement that people have been registering. Yeah, and I think a lot of it was just some, like, you know, response to the fact that in the very first episode, things seemed really chaotic due to Alan's actions. And then, you know, JP and Ashley, I think, were more on the, you know, whatever of these old ladies. Although Ben was literally the guy who kept saying, you know, Katrina or Chrissy, like that they were one person. I don't see what's interesting about him or that what he's doing well other than be the kind of person nobody targets early.
Yep.
because he just isn't. And it's like, oh, what a great player he is. I suppose, one thing he did was recognize, after all of that Chrissy is somebody with value. She's just not somebody who is ancient and decrepit as 40 something.
Right.
So that's good.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that these people can't later on impress me. I'm just saying,
absolutely,
as of what we've seen so far, there haven't been a lot of people moving the needle for me.
But yeah, other than that, honestly, Ben just hasn't registered other than, he seems like a stand-up dude. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Allie, absolutely. Last week I said nice things about Ryan. I want to take a lot of them back this week. Because again, he very much clearly seemed like it had to be Patrick for no other reason than, Patrick might, better fit in with his MRA circles where they call women females, that sort of thing.
Yeah. On one of his several Reddit accounts that he has.
Yeah, and how do you be the guy who simultaneously will hustle to jump at every opportunity to talk about what a loser you are, yet clearly take deep personal offense when Lauren deigns to suggest that he would be a bit of an oddball in most situations? Mm-hmm. And then she's like, how dare she talk about me like that? I'm the king of this place, don't you know? So yeah, he kind of went full circle with what our initial opinions are of him. And yeah, I think I think, Devin in what small measures, again, cause, I think it was his decision. When Ryan started talking, he's kind of like, I don't know, maybe we should Patrick, end scene. And I think that was an extension of when we saw him go into the water, conversation session with Lauren.
Yeah.
And, Allie. Yeah, so Devin, I think, was a little bit of something, but the fact that he wasn't more of something tells me probably he's not long for this game.
Sure.
All right, getting back to predictions, I'm going to predict Joe because I want it to happen, and because I feel like that would make sense as an extension of the story laid down this week. And to your point, what Cole did helped spread the chances that the legend of Sneaky Joe, the idol holder threat, can travel.
Yeah, my thought is just that it is going to travel, and in some form, Joe's going to find out about that, and then play the idol.
And then maybe it bounces back on Jessica.
Sure.
I guess, if that's your prediction.
Assuming she's even in his tribe, who knows?
Okay, that's, I think, all we got for this week. You got anything else?
Nope, that's all. You can, of course, find all of our stuff on purplerockpodcast.com. Live blogs every week. We got fantasy games. We've got, other stuff. I don't know. What do we do? We do predictions for every week. So you can join in and see if you're better at this than we are. So far, none right for me. Good job, me.
Yeah, I liked how, in week 2, you optimistically tried to pick nothing but dudes, and then last week you cynically picked nothing but ladies.
Yep.
And both times you got your signals crossed.
Yep.
We obviously put out content on Twitter because it's 2017. It'd be weird if you didn't. Even though that site might be freaking awful.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow that, the show, Purple Rock Pod, where you drop comments every week. I've noticed not as much this season. Step up your game, man.
I will do my best. You can also find me.
Or step up your game show. That could be more of the reason.
Anyway, you can find me on Purple Rock, or at Purple Rock John. Andy is, of course, at Purple Rock Andy. And you can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all those various places. Anything else, Andy?
Let's hit some music.